You ever notice how some people scream that all men are trash, but they keep choosing the same kind of men over and over again? Today, we're breaking down the real reason behind that toxic cycle. And trust me, it's deeper than you think. What's going on, everyone? It's your boy coming through once again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. You already know what time it is. Today, we're diving deep into something that's not just about celebrity gossip. It's about human nature, pain, accountability, and the way we handle our emotional scars in the public eye. There's an old saying that goes, "Hurt people hurt people." It's simple, but it carries a truth that cuts deep. We've all seen it play out, whether in our own relationships, friendships, or families. When people don't take the time to heal, they often project their pain onto others. Sometimes it's intentional, other times it's subconscious, but either way, that unhealed energy doesn't just disappear. It finds new targets. It moves through conversations, behaviors, and decisions, leaving behind a trail of confusion and resentment. And that brings us to Summer Walker, a talented artist, a woman with an undeniable voice and style, but also someone who's clearly wrestling with her own inner battles. When you look at Summer, it's not hard to see both brilliance and brokenness existing side by side. Her music, filled with raw emotion and vulnerability, reflects that. But outside the studio, her public statements and relationships often tell another story. One that seems to come from a place of distrust, frustration, and perhaps a lingering sense of betrayal. Recently, Summer appeared on a popular podcast, and during her conversation, she opened up about how she deals with men. But instead of focusing on healing or growth, she shared a perspective that caught a lot of people off guard. A mindset that seemed to promote using men rather than building with them. It was almost like a declaration of emotional self-defense. The kind that says, if I don't trust anyone, they can't hurt me. But here's the thing. When you lead with that energy, you're not protecting yourself. You're isolating yourself. What might feel like empowerment in the moment often turns into bitterness over time. And what starts as a form of getting even slowly transforms into a cycle of distrust that's hard to escape. Now, I don't say this to tear Summer down. If anything, her story is relatable to more people than we might want to admit. We live in a time where social media glorifies detachment, emotional games, and the idea of getting what you can before the other person does. Vulnerability is seen as weakness. Love is viewed as a transaction. And that philosophy is spreading faster than we realize, especially among younger people watching their favorite influencers live out these patterns on a public stage. But let's go back to that phrase. Hurt people, hurt people. When you listen to someone like Summer Walker, you can almost hear the pain behind the words. The distrust she expresses doesn't appear out of nowhere. It likely comes from experiences that left her feeling used, lied to, or undervalued. Maybe it's past relationships, maybe it's fame, maybe it's how quickly people switch up when money and status enter the equation. Whatever the case, what we're seeing is someone responding to that pain by building emotional armor. Armor that looks shiny on the outside, but heavy to carry in real life. There's also something to be said about how fame intensifies all of this. When you're in the public eye, every mistake becomes a headline, and every emotional outburst becomes content. Imagine trying to heal while millions of people watch, judge, and comment. For someone like Summer, that pressure must be enormous. But even with that understanding, it's important to recognize when self-protection turns into self-sabotage. Because here's what happens when we start to see relationships as battles instead of bonds. We lose the ability to connect genuinely. The idea of partnership turns into competition. Instead of asking, how can we grow together? It becomes, what can I get out of this before they do? And at that point, love isn't love anymore. It's a transaction, a performance, a defense mechanism disguised as confidence. When Summer talks about using men or keeping her emotional walls up, it might sound like strength to some people. But true strength isn't in manipulation. It's in mastery. Mastery of your emotions, your boundaries, and your sense of self. Real confidence comes from knowing your worth without having to devalue others. It's about being able to walk away from toxicity without becoming toxic yourself. Now let's broaden the lens a bit. Summer's attitude isn't just a personal issue. It's part of a growing cultural shift. We're witnessing a generation caught between empowerment and entitlement, between self-love and selfishness. The message being pushed online is often, get yours before they get theirs. And that mindset might get you short-term gains, but it's not sustainable. It creates distrust between men and women. feeding into stereotypes on both sides. On one end, we have men saying, "You can't trust women, they only want money." On the other, we have women saying, "Men are useless, take what you can and move on." Both sides feel justified. Both feel hurt, and both are reacting instead of healing. And social media amplifies it all, turning pain into entertainment and trauma into trends. That's why discussions like this matter. When we see someone like Summer Walker expressing that kind of energy, we shouldn't just judge. We should analyze. We should ask, what's driving this behavior? What wound hasn't been addressed? Because it's not about one celebrity's opinion. It's about the reflection of a larger emotional crisis happening across our culture. Think about how we celebrate independence these days. For many people, it's become synonymous with emotional isolation. We say, "I don't need anybody," as if needing people is something to be ashamed of. But humans are wired for connection. The goal shouldn't be to avoid relationships. It should be to engage in them with self-awareness and boundaries that protect, not punish. In Summer's case, her music often reveals a different side of her, the side that still believes in love, that still feels deeply, that still hurts. And maybe that's the contradiction that makes her so fascinating. The artist who sings about love, yet speaks about detachment. But that's also what makes her human. We all have contradictions like that. We say one thing when we're healed, and another when we're hurting. The real lesson here is not to idolize or condemn people like Summer Walker, but to learn from what we see. Because if you look closely, her situation mirrors what's happening in many lives behind closed doors. People are tired of being used, tired of being lied to, tired of giving their all and getting little in return. So instead of healing, they flip the script and become what hurt them. But that doesn't bring peace. It just multiplies the pain. At the end of the day, the saying holds true. Hurt people really do hurt people. But healed people heal people too. And that's the direction we should be aiming for. Not revenge, not emotional warfare, but restoration. So when we look at Summer Walker's latest comments, we shouldn't just shake our heads or roll our eyes. We should ask ourselves, are we living the same way in our own lives? Are we protecting our peace or pushing people away? Are we setting boundaries or building walls? Because if we can learn to recognize the difference, if we can heal instead of harden, then maybe we can stop this cycle of emotional damage that keeps repeating itself. From one relationship to the next, one generation to the next. And that, my friends, is the bigger picture. It's more than celebrity news. It's a mirror reflecting back our own struggles with love, trust, and pain. So, as always, it's your boy back with another episode of The Celebrity Junk, reminding you, don't just watch these stories unfold. Learn from them, because every headline has a lesson, if you're willing to see it.
Broke, I will leave you.
Figure
it out.
So you're here to just bleed them dry.
Yes.
As soon as you get everything, you're off. Do you normally seek out the victims, or do they come? Is it inbound calls?
Oh, no. I never chase.
So it's never outbound?
I only attract.
Inbound only.
And if you came and talked to me, that's your fault.
Right, your prerogative. You signed up for this.
Ladies, if you try to ride or die, you will, in fact, die. Don't do that no more. You look stupid.
I do want to think, and maybe this is me being optimistic, that not like 100% exclusively that will be the experience. You know, maybe there are some good dynamics still left, no?
It could be. I'm not a man hater. I don't know. I just don't like them anymore. Like,
When you say them.
Like men, I don't like to date wise. Like, y'all can provide, but like, to like them?
So, according to her, the message she's sending to women is pretty clear. Use men for what you can get. She openly admits that's how she operates, implying that men don't really serve much purpose beyond that. Now, this is coming from a woman who's a mother of 3, including a set of twins, one of whom she shares with producer London on Daytrack. What's interesting is that this kind of message has become increasingly popular online. You see influencers like Sheer7 or the so-called Sprinkle Sprinkle crowd pushing similar narratives. And while their content might seem entertaining or empowering on the surface, there's something deeper and a bit troubling about the mindset it promotes.
Ready to hear this, but hypergamy content is slowly starting to feel like the female version of red pill content. Now, wait, hear me out. I know that red pill content is actively promoting abuse towards women, but hypergamy content is slowly promoting emotional abuse towards men. Okay, hold on. I love seeing women get treated like queens. I love seeing that on my page. I love seeing men adore and spoil their women any chance they get. However, there's content that's being pushed out to essentially make you compare your relationship with some random person's relationship. If your man does not buy you a car, 1,000 roses, and pays your rent, he's just not man enough. You're with the wrong guy. He's a dusty. Do you know how damaging that is for not just men, but for women ourselves? Because this is reinforcing the idea that a woman's value has to come from the external. It has to come from material goods. Like, I'm only a woman enough, I'm only feminine enough if I can have a guy pay for me, essentially. So my value is based on a man still. We are telling men that if you cannot provide 100% everything, give your wife everything, you're just not man enough. What about all those men, like 90% of men that just don't have the luxury to do that? Do they not deserve?
Let's really unpack this for a moment. The creator brings up an important point. People are quick to call the red pill mindset toxic, yet somehow encouraging women to exploit men isn't seen the same way. But let's be honest, isn't that toxic too? It's essentially flipping the same shallow coin, reducing relationships to looks, money, and power games. Take Summer Walker as an example. Her romantic history speaks volumes. She's been linked to Rico Reckless around late 2023, then moved on, claiming she was done with men. Not long after, she reportedly hired a white man to pose as her boyfriend at the VMAs, someone known for his wild behavior. Before that, there was London on Day Track, Larry Lambert, the father of her twins, and Lil Meech, who's notably younger and still finding his footing. When you look closely, there's a pattern. These men weren't exactly high-quality partners, and the outcomes reflected that. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When you consistently choose low-value partners, you often end up with low-value results. If your relationships keep failing, maybe it's time to consider the common denominator, you. Now, Summer often talks about using men or getting money out of them. But if that strategy really worked, why end up dating people like Rico Reckless or Lil Meech? These aren't exactly the type of men you'd pick if you truly had your pick of the powerful and wealthy. That's not shade, it's just reality. The deeper issue isn't just the choices she's making, it's the mindset she's spreading. Telling women to get what you can get from men might sound clever on social media, but it promotes bitterness, not empowerment. That mentality keeps people stuck, angry, distrustful, and ultimately alone. And here's where things start to get truly serious. When you begin playing games with people's emotions, or worse, their money, it's no longer just a matter of pride or pettiness. It becomes dangerous territory. Emotions are powerful currency, more volatile than any form of money, and when they're mishandled, the fallout can be devastating. We've all seen how these situations spiral out of control. One person feels used, deceived, or taken advantage of, and suddenly, that anger doesn't just sit quietly, it festers. It turns into resentment, into retaliation, into emotional warfare. And what started as a small act of manipulation, a lie, a hidden agenda, a calculated move, grows into a full-blown cycle of destruction. That's why emotional manipulation is so insidious. It may seem harmless at first, even strategic. You convince yourself it's a way to protect your heart. If I play them first, they can't play me. But the truth is, every time you manipulate someone, you chip away at your own integrity. You lose a little bit of who you are. You start becoming the very thing you swore you'd never be. And here's the contradiction. We live in a culture that glamorizes this kind of behavior. Get even. Play the game. Don't catch feelings. It's become the anthem of modern dating, where vulnerability is mocked and detachment is celebrated. But when you strip away the filters and online posturing, what's left are real people, bruised, bitter, and confused. Wondering why love keeps turning into war. You can't demand fairness while playing unfair. You can't ask for honesty while living in manipulation. And you certainly can't expect peace when your actions are rooted in pain. The math doesn't work that way. See, accountability isn't about blame, it's about balance. It's the moment you stop running from yourself and admit that, yes, you may have been wrong too. Maybe you chose the wrong people. Maybe you ignored the red flags. Maybe you were so focused on proving something to someone else that you lost sight of what you actually needed. That's not weakness. That's awareness. If your life is filled with chaos, unstable relationships, constant disappointment, and a revolving door of almosts, then the common denominator might not be luck. It might be you. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's also the most liberating truth you'll ever accept. Because once you acknowledge your role in the mess, you gain the power to clean it up. Accountability is uncomfortable, no doubt about that. It forces you to face the parts of yourself that you've avoided for years. The parts that crave validation, that fear abandonment, that confuse love with attention. But discomfort is where transformation happens. Healing never comes from pretending you're okay. It comes from admitting that you're not. People like Summer Walker aren't evil. They're human. They're wounded souls trying to make sense of their pain in a world that profits from it. We shouldn't villainize her or anyone else who's been publicly struggling with relationships. What we should do is recognize the pattern, because it's not just her pattern. It's a reflection of millions of people navigating brokenness while pretending to be in control. When you don't heal, your wounds become magnets. They attract what feels familiar, not what's healthy. You'll keep gravitating toward people who match your pain, not your potential. You'll call it chemistry, but it's really trauma disguised as connection. And until you deal with that, you'll find yourself living the same story with different names and faces. This is the quiet tragedy of unhealed people. They chase closure through chaos. They look for healing in relationships that only reopen the wound. They crave validation from the same type of person who once made them feel invisible. And when it ends, as it inevitably does, they tell themselves, see, everyone's the same. But the truth is, it's not that everyone's the same. It's that you're still choosing from the same place of pain. Healing starts when you stop blaming everyone else. When you finally sit down and say, maybe it's not them this time. Maybe it's me. That's where peace begins. Not in control, not in revenge, but in self-awareness. And don't get it twisted. Healing doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you'll never get hurt again. It means you'll stop letting the hurt define how you treat others. You'll stop letting it dictate how you love, trust, and show up in the world. For someone like Summer Walker, or anyone who's been through betrayal, heartbreak, or public humiliation, healing is even harder because their pain becomes entertainment. Every mistake is magnified, every emotion analyzed. But whether you're a celebrity or not, the process is the same. You have to face yourself. You have to stop seeking redemption through relationships and start finding it within. There's also a spiritual truth here, one that's often ignored in our fast-paced, emotionally shallow culture. When you live in constant reaction mode, when your entire mindset is built around getting even or proving your worth to others, you're living in bondage. Freedom doesn't come from control, it comes from release. From letting go of the need to always be right, always be validated, always be one step ahead. You can't attract peace while living in turmoil. You can't invite love while entertaining bitterness. Healing requires space, emotional, mental, and sometimes physical. You might have to distance yourself from toxic cycles, from people who feed your ego but starve your spirit. You might even have to be alone for a while, not as punishment, but as preparation. Because solitude, when embraced, isn't loneliness, it's detox. It's where clarity is born. It's where you start hearing your own thoughts without the noise of validation, approval, or online applause. It's where you rediscover your identity outside of who hurt you or who left you. When people say healing is a journey, they're not exaggerating. It's messy, nonlinear, and at times brutally honest. You'll have days when you feel powerful, and other days when you feel like falling apart. But each step forward, no matter how small, takes you closer to emotional freedom. And here's something else worth saying. Accountability doesn't mean self-blame. You're not responsible for the pain others caused you, but you are responsible for what you do with it. You can either let it define you or refine you. You can either repeat it or release it. People who never take accountability spend their lives replaying the same story, expecting a different ending. They blame every ex, every boss, every friend, never realizing that change starts the moment they stop pointing fingers. The minute you say, I played a role in this too, you shift from being a victim of your story to the author of your next chapter. So when we look at someone like Summer Walker and see her navigating heartbreak after heartbreak, we shouldn't just gossip about her choices. We should see the warning sign. Because that's what unresolved pain looks like when it becomes public. And if we're being honest, many of us are living quieter versions of the same story. At some point, we all have to decide, will I keep recycling pain, or will I finally release it? Will I keep trying to control others, or will I learn to control myself? That's the true test of growth. Not how much you can gain, but how much you can let go. Because peace doesn't come when everything around you changes. It comes when you change. It begins the day you stop chasing revenge, validation, or closure from others, and start creating those things for yourself. So yes, hurt people, but healed people, heal people. When you heal, you break generational patterns. You stop projecting, stop manipulating, and start loving from a place of fullness instead of fear. And maybe that's the message we all need right now. Not just Summer Walker, not just celebrities, but every single one of us still learning how to love without losing ourselves. So that's my take. Signing off once again for another thought-provoking episode of the Celebrity Junk. Until next time, stay smart, stay grounded, and most of all, stay accountable.